Judge Wasilwa there has just given her sentence to the officials of the Kenya Medical Pharmacists and Dentists Union. They have been in court for the last, say, 1 hour. The sentence is going to be a suspended sentence of 1 month in jail for contempt of court. They have been given 2 weeks to really continue with their negotiations, failure to which in 1 month they will be having, they'll have to go to jail for 1 month for contempt of court. It has been really an emotional, so to speak, period for the last 1 hour with the members of the officials, of course, of the Kenya Medical Practitioners, Pharmacists and Dentists Union, just trying to give their case, really, to avoid that sentence. But the judge there, very, very strict, saying that she's given that 1 month jail, but it is suspended for 2 weeks. Therefore, they will be starting their sentence come the 26th of January. And I want to just get the views of my panelists today. And I have Jesse Oduor. He is an advocate, not new to News Center. And seated right next to him is Duncan Okach, who's also not new to News Center. He is an advocate. Thank you so much, gentlemen, for staying with us. So first things first, I'd like to hear your thoughts on this sentence. I'll start with you, Jesse.
One thing that comes out from this sentence, like any other court proceedings, is once the court has issued an order, whether you like it or not, you have to comply with the orders of the court, because the court order is not an opinion for you to decide whether you're going to agree with it or not. On that one, for the sentencing, I think the learned judge was trying to uphold the rule of law and protect the integrity of the court. That is as far as the rule of law is concerned and as far as court orders are concerned. But then it is also interesting because you realize that the officials have been given a suspended sentence of 1 month. Warrant of arrest were just issued last week. We have a pending warrant of arrest to the PS of Interior Security, which has been over for about 1 month now. It has not been effected. So this actually brings to Kenya the double standards that actually not just the judiciary, but even the National Police Service are going through when they have to effect court orders.
All right.
Yeah.
I'd like to hear, Duncan, have the doctors now been cornered with this particular sentence to work it out or to go to jail in 1 month? For 1 month, actually.
It's 1 month. I wish you a happy new year. We've never met before. And, I also wish the viewers a happy new year. Coming to your question, indeed, it is a sad part of that particular ruling in as far as the time limits that have been given. In essence, what the court is actually telling the doctors is, regardless of the negotiations, regardless of what the government will bring on the table, you must come up with an agreement by the end of the 2 weeks, failure to which you will actually walk directly to prison. Alternatively, you must call off the strike, regardless of what the government says. And it actually means that the government now has an upper hand. Right. It has leverage in negotiations. And I believe there's never a time limit to negotiations. Negotiations can actually take any direction, any dimension. You may actually even think it's 2 weeks. It may take 2 days. You may think it's 2 weeks. It may actually be proper for it to take 3 weeks.
All right.
Therefore, there's an issue with that.
But don't you think that maybe to some extent the judge, was favorable to the officials because, like you mentioned, the law is law, and if there was a contempt of court, then it has to be addressed according to the law. But here there's a situation where they've been given a window, at least not being in jail, to continue the negotiations. Isn't it a favorable sentence?
I don't think I won't call that favorable, keeping in mind that this is an issue before court which we are not supposed to be discussing. But based on what you've asked me, the moment the judge gives you 2 weeks or else your sentence is going to start, it means that is actually not sending you to negotiation, it's actually arm twisting you. So that the government actually has leverage, the way my learned colleague says. Because it means that the government can actually withdraw the offer that given the teachers. They can actually fail to negotiate because they know that these guys have a rope hanging over their heads. So it means that whatever happens within these 2 weeks, the union officials have to call off the strike. If the strike hasn't been called off, they're going to jail for 1 month. That is actually not the spirit of the Constitution of consultation and even engaging the unions. Being in a union and going for industrial action, which the doctors have gone the strike is a constitutional right. You can't wish that away. And the moment you start twisting union officials, then it's actually the mockery of the Constitution.
But, I mean, at the end of the day, like you mentioned, Jesse, there was a contempt of court. So how would that have been addressed, Duncan?
There was a contempt of court, yes, but the court does not actually live outside the spheres of humanity. The realities must always inform our decisions, even as a judiciary, even in seeking justice. The reality always informs decisions, and that is what we expected to have been seen today. It, to an extent, has informed the judge, and that is why you have that particular aspect of feeling that she actually gave them a window to which they can actually circumvent the sentence that she has already passed. But having said that, the reality is that this is a representative kind of movement.
Right.
These are just representatives of doctors.
Yeah.
They actually take the instructions from doctors. It's not the other way around. And I heard the judge say that they have the power to actually instruct the doctors to do A, B, C, D. But no. This particular group must actually sit down with these particular doctors and come up with this decision. And they are told, we want to go on strike. They have to. Failure to that, they will actually be hounded out of office themselves, and the doctors will still go on strike. A case in point is what happened in the nurses' union. The nurses, two or three officials called off a strike. Only one official remained, and he actually didn't agree with his colleagues. But the entire nursing fraternity didn't report to work until they continued with negotiations, reached an amicable agreement, and they're back to work.
Right.
That is what we expect, both assisted by the judiciary, the executive, and this particular union, to the best interest of the common mwananchi.
All right, there's a word that Jesse mentioned, and he talked about twisting, this particular process. And, that then raises questions about the independence of that court today. Because if, these doctors were given just 2 weeks to negotiate, failure to which they're back to jail, like he mentioned, it sounds like sort of like an arm twist for the doctors. Is there a way that they can circumvent around this particular sentence? Come 2 weeks, after 2 weeks?
Yes, there's a way. Thanks to the new constitution. If it was in the older order, their fate would be done. Unless, of course, there's court of appeal, which they can actually move to. So the judges' union actually can move and appeal the sentence that the judge has already given and go against
the
that.
Doctors' Union.
The doctors' union,
yes,
sorry.
Yes.
They can actually go and appeal that. You realize the reason why I'm calling it twisting, you realize that the officials were actually summoned to State House in Mombasa. They met the president of the republic, and they couldn't agree. They came back, they have had several meetings with the health officials, ministry, but they couldn't agree. But then the moment you now move to court and tell them that you have to agree within 2 weeks, failure to which you're going to jail, it's just not twisting, but actually it's intimidation of the highest order. And we don't expect such in the judiciary. It's actually, I don't think it's the new judiciary that Kenyans fought for in this constitution.
So then should we raise questions about this particular sentence, Duncan? Is it independent?
We should raise a lot of questions. And Betty, you've been here with me, and you've had the judge render herself on issues touching on the CBA.
The CBA.
And she's already indicated what her mind will be. Even if this particular claim would have fallen through to the fullness of time, she's already indicated that she will not have agreed with these particular doctors. And therefore, it tells you that as far as she is concerned, her mind is settled, her mind is set up, and regardless of whether these particular doctors would have called off the strike and continued with this particular matter, she had already rendered herself in terms of her mindset. And that's why the doctors were very right to know that they will not get their justice in terms of what they want in court. They will actually get it, stand a better chance of getting it by following civil strife. And that is what is there. And if the court would have actually been candid enough in terms of the realities that face it, I believe it should have given them a window, but not given them a time frame, because that would actually mean that their ability to bargain is already curtailed.
All right, so are we saying the window period would have been longer? Or, because if we don't have a limit, then what is the point of even going to court in the first place?
What happens, Betty, is she should have given them a mention date on the 26th. Within 2 weeks, come, let's see what happens. That is what happens naturally.
All right.
Let's see. If there's nothing, fine. If there's a problem, you can even find it's the government that is is throwing a spanner in the works, she would actually be able to address it at that point.
All right.
But what happens today is if the government actually throws a spanner into the works, regardless of that particular fact, these people will actually be welcomed to be guests of the government come the 26th.
All right, so we'll continue the conversation, Jesse. We'll come back and continue this conversation in a few minutes. For now, we want to take a break here on News Center. Don't go away. Remember that our top story is what you're seeing on our Super Wall, and it's the KMPD officials were in court, like you saw there. And what we're talking about is that sentence, that suspended sentence that they have been given 1 month. They've been given a 2-week window so that they can finish up with the negotiations. So they've been given a time limit to finish this conversation with the government to come to an amicable solution, failure to which, after 1 month, on the 26th of January, they will start their sentence in jail for 1 month. So that's the latest update. We're going to continue with this conversation shortly. We also have live images of doctors who have just left the Milimani Law Courts. Those are live images coming to us from the city center. And we're very eager to hear what the doctors will have to say about this particular sentencing, and we'll try and get their views shortly here on News Center. Well, thank you so much for staying with us. We take a break here on News Center. We'll be back after a few minutes.